So this is your required family medicine clerkship orientation. And kind of the big thing, part of the reason we separated the Wright and the LIC students from the other general clerkship students this time is just that I think the due dates are a little bit different. And so the biggest thing I would say for you guys for that is just to know that I would probably plan on just, kind of paying attention to the guides that you're getting from your program, because I know that some Wright programs are a little bit longer or shorter than others. And then I know the LIC, the Longitudinal Integrated Clerkship in Olympia, also kind of has its own timeline. So I'm going to talk sort of in generalities when we talk about some of the things that are due over the course of the clerkship. And I would refer to whatever sort of orientation and guidelines you're getting from the leadership of Wright and LIC. So we will dive into this PowerPoint here. All right, can you guys see this okay? So again, this is the Family Medicine Clerkship. I'm the co-director, and the other co-director is Ms. McKean, and the person you probably heard the most from at this point is Jamie Fitch, and she's our program manager. So the goals and objectives of the Family Medicine Clerkship are to kind of learn the family medicine approach to healthcare. So in family medicine, we tend to take into consideration not just whatever's going on inside a patient's body, but also sort of what's going on in their life, and how that can potentially impact their healthcare. And the word that you've probably heard before is biopsychosocial aspects of care. So taking into consideration the organic disease, as well as whatever's going on in their mind and in their sort of social context. In family medicine, we practice comprehensive care, which means that we do a lot of different types of care, whether it's acute or chronic illness. Some family doctors do prenatal and labor management. We do wellness, continuity of care. So, sort of taking care of patients over the course of their lives, cradle to grave, or even before the cradle to the grave. And taking into consideration, again, where the different sort of places that patients can encounter care, and coordinating and integrating the care across different health professionals and systems. So the objectives, we want you to be able to discuss principles of care within the framework of family medicine and the critical role that family physicians play within the healthcare system. We want you to be able to start to do acute, chronic, and preventive care. So being able to gather information, formulate differentials, and do diagnostic evaluations for common presentations, and to be able to manage some of those common presentations and longitudinal care like chronic disease as well as pregnancy. And then evidence-based health plans, but learning how to do that with good communication with patients and creating shared decision plans. We have a patient-centered care curriculum, and we'll talk more about we will go through and talk about all of these things in much greater depth as we go through, as well as the professionalism curriculum. So basically everything that you guys need to know about the clerkship is on our website. So if you go to uwfmc.org or you Google UW Family Medicine Clerkship, you'll get to a main page. And on this left bar, you can go to the Info for Students tab. And everything you need is here. Probably the most important thing is the assignment tracker, which is one place where all of your assignments are on this assignment tracker. So I'd get real familiar with that. Oh, come on back. All right. So oh my goodness. It's playing tricks with me today. So the thing that's great about the assignment tracker, this is something that your predecessors have really, really liked about family medicine clerkship is that this is one place that tracks all of your curricular activities and timelines across the course of the clerkship. There is a special assignment tracker for Wright. Family medicine is just one part of that. You guys have probably already seen this. We really recommend that you do this, that you update the tracker on a regular basis. It says weekly here. That's for the regular clerkship students. I think if you can do it weekly, it's a really nice way to stay on track. Certainly do it at least every other week or so. We recommend that you bring your tracker to the mid and end of clerkship reviews with your site director so that you can, so that they can get a sense of where you guys are at. And if there are certain things that you need to continue to do or certain skills that you need to build before the end of the clerkship, this is a way to be able to look at this together. And then I think that the other important thing to know is just that the assignment tracker actually is quite a long page, and so we recommend making sure that you scroll all the way down just to make sure you're staying on top of everything. So an important part of the assignment tracker is the clinical knowledge sections, and that includes acute conditions, chronic diseases, health maintenance, pregnancy, labor, and delivery. For each one of these subsections, there are sort of a set of clinical knowledge and presentations that you will be responsible for, and there's sort of a guideline for how many of each you're expected to see over the course of each, of how many you're expected to see of each kind of subset. And you can kind of see what that looks like here. When you check it off, it timestamps it, so you can say, okay, well, I saw an upper respiratory infection, last week or this week. The one thing to know, a lot of these have, we'll talk more about this, a lot of them have these FM cases numbers next to them. So if you don't see an adequate number in clinic, you can do the FM cases. I would encourage you to kind of save checking off the FM cases that you've done until later so that you have the opportunity to see the to actually get a chance to see the clinical presentations, and it doesn't throw you off. So again, we talked about this. There's this, you have to see a certain percentage of each one to sort of fully complete the tracker. I think you guys are all at sites that do pregnancy, labor, and delivery, so this should not impact you. But if you're not, if you're not at a site that has pregnancy management, then you have to do the corresponding cases for the pregnancy, labor, and delivery section. Before I go further, does anybody have any questions about the clinical presentations part of the tracker? Okay. I think you guys can chat me if things come up too as we go along. All right, so I'm going to keep chugging along. So the next part of our curriculum is the effective patient-centered care curriculum. This serves as the mini clinical exam for the family medicine clerkship. And I think probably what's important to know about this is that it's sort of a funny mini CEX because you have to do it and you have to receive feedback on what you do. But the idea with the patient-centered care curriculum is that it's actually really formative feedback that you should be getting. So it's not about getting a 100% score on this. You will, in the videos, you'll actually see me doing it, and I can promise you that even experienced clinicians are always learning as they go through this type of training and form. So it's really about trying to improve upon the skills that you have and to sort of have targeted feedback about skill building. So in the first couple of weeks of your experience, you will be expected to learn these concepts through articles, videos, and direct observations. So at the website, www.pcof.us, or there's a link from the assignment tracker, there's some video modules that you will do. There are also a couple of articles about communication, building relationships and communication with patients, and how that ties into efficiency. And there's actually some really nice data that improving your communication skills and agenda setting with patients actually really helps you move in a more efficient way and satisfying way through your day. So in the first couple of weeks, you'll read the articles, do the video modules, and then you'll use the physician form to observe your faculty members. So this is what the form looks like. And basically what it does is it breaks down all of the elements of a patient interaction into sort of sections. So things like rapport, establishing rapport, or making an agenda, or physical exam, electronic health use, health record use, shared decision making, those kinds of things. There's actually a lot. There's something like 14 subsets here, so it can be an overwhelming form. But what you can do is you can use it to kind of break down the various behaviors that make up a patient encounter. And I think there's a couple little tips and tricks that I would think about using with this. Some people will do the entire form a number of times over the course of the clerkship. I think that's great if you have a chance to do it. I think, again, this is our mini clinical exam, so certainly doing the whole thing at least once is a great idea. You can also break it down and ask for feedback on specific areas. So, for example, if you're trying to get better at agenda setting and establishing rapport, you could say, I'd really love to get feedback on sections 1 and 3. The thing that we ask you to do is, if you're going to break it down by sort of smaller chunks, to make sure that you are observed and get feedback on each of the 3 kind of big areas of the patient encounter. And those are sort of rapport and agenda setting is the first one. The middle one is history taking and physical exam. And then the last one is decision making and closure. So, we just ask that you make a point of getting feedback on all of those different sections. I think this is one of these things that makes a lot more sense when you have a chance to go through the videos. But at this point, does anybody have any questions about this? All right. I'm going to keep going then. So there's also some optional curricula that you can complete at any time if you would like to. These ART modules stands for Articulating and Reflecting on Tacit Expertise. And what that means is there are some things that experienced doctors will do where it may appear to somebody less experienced, or to really even another experienced doctor, that they somehow knew something, and it's like, how on earth did they know that quickly, or how did they put all that together? And some, like an example that you guys may have heard of is sort of the sick not sick thing. So sometimes you can walk into a room and see somebody and just say, oh my goodness, that person is very sick. And so what is it that makes that quick? What makes it so that you're able to make a very quick decision about that? And these are modules that help you kind of think through what it is that makes up that tacit expertise. Untacit meaning unspoken. This lower one, the WISH online learning modules, these are learning modules that were done by the Department of Surgery, and they're on the Simulation Center website. There's stuff on instrument handling, knot tying, and suturing. And they're certainly worth looking at if this is something that's of interest to you. Sometime we used to have these little fake skin kits, and unfortunately we lost the grant for that, but there's other ways of kind of finding fake skin, such as buying pig's feet and other things like that. So, so that's something to kind of think about if you have some time and the interest in doing that. And then this last thing on Thrive is about professional resiliency. So that's something that if you need a little pick me up, that could be something that could be worth your time. So our professionalism curriculum, there's a couple pieces of this. One is looking at the professionalism expectations and also reviewing that at your mid and end of clerkship feedback sessions. And then we also have some questions about the learning environment, about one of them is about mid-clerkship review and end of clerkship review, and we ask that you do those as well. So the professionalism awards is the one thing that I haven't mentioned yet. There is a student award and a staff and faculty award, and this really came out of a desire to recognize the really great things that a lot of our students, staff, and faculty are doing. So if you work with somebody over the course of your clerkship, your family medicine clerkship, who's really a standout and really sort of demonstrates what it means to be an exceptionally professional physician, I think it is really lovely for people to be recognized in this way, and I think it means a lot to the people who are honored and nominated. So what does it mean to be in a professional learning environment? I think some of it is just recognizing the rights and responsibilities of everybody involved. I think that everybody's heard the treating people with fairness and respect and without bias. I think another place that's really important, though, is the question of feedback and making sure that students and learners have the opportunity to get timely and constructive feedback and accurate. So we work really hard with our clerkship faculty on making sure that this is something that that you guys get on a regular basis. So from your standpoint, I think that what it means to be professional is, being courteous and respectful. I think a place that sometimes people get a little bit stuck is the moment when you realize that, you're in a patient setting. And so really what comes first is the care of the patient and and your educational needs are extremely important, but they are also not the number one thing in the in patient encounters. So sort of having that situational awareness of patient care is first, and then and sort of thinking about that in context of asking questions and those kinds of things. Knowing your limitations and asking for help when you need it, maintaining patient confidentiality. And then again, I think feedback comes up here again because, I think that it's easy to feel sort of, if you get some feedback that's hard to hear, I think it's easy to feel bad about that, but also to try and take it in the spirit of collegiality and in the spirit of the people who are teaching you because they care about you and your development as a physician, but they actually really also care about building a physician workforce, and they care about having you as a colleague in the future. And so I think that we all have something to learn when it comes to being physicians. And again, I think that we're all always learning, and so taking those moments for feedback is an opportunity to improve, as opposed to something that's just criticism. Does anybody have any questions about the professionalism stuff? I'm going to keep going in that case. So duty hours, check the student handbook. All of our clerkship sites should be following the School of Medicine duty hours rules. And we have this recipe for clerkship success that's linked on our website. I think I have it open. I'd encourage you to take a look at it. A lot of this is about Ways to be successful are things like being prepared to see the patients that you're going to see, planning on reading up on your patients and bringing those things back. If you do a lot of reading, I think it's awesome. But also remember that if you don't tell your faculty the stuff that you learned about, then they don't know. So, find ways to contribute to the team by learning and reading, and also find ways just in general to contribute to the whole group. We rarely have issues with professionalism concerns, with things like the confidential comments and low scores. I think it's really important for you guys to know what our policy is. If something comes up, or if you have a complaint or a concern about a site, there's a couple places that this comes up. One is in your end of clerkship feedback, end of clerkship evaluation. There's a place that says confidential comments. So if you put something in there, we don't jump on it and do something immediately unless there's imminent danger. Because what we want to do is we want to protect your anonymity and make sure that you're in a situation where your grade is protected, and you don't have any concerns about, people feeling upset about getting feedback that maybe isn't the most positive. There's a place where it says, can we contact you about this? We would encourage you to say yes. And here's why. A lot of times, people put their concerns in this sort of confidential comment section, and then they never find out what happened from there. And they're kind of in a place where they're left wondering what happened. And we can't circle back and tell you that the situation has been managed or give you any sense of what happened unless you give us permission to contact you. The other thing is that sometimes we want to gather a little bit more information about what happened so we can come up with an appropriate action plan. So again, I'd really encourage you to think about letting us contact you if you have a concern. And certainly if something comes up and you really feel like you're in a place where you're feeling uncomfortable for one reason or another, figure out who your allies are. So you guys all have college mentors that know you well. Reach out to those people and talk to them, and you're always welcome to reach out to us as well. I mean, I think we're here for you, and we want to help you kind of get the best experience that you can. So our formal curriculum is the FM cases. So these are interactive virtual cases. There are 40 of them. You are not required to do these cases, but I would say that the test is based on these cases, and so we certainly encourage you to do them. These are cases that are used nationally. There's self-assessment questions. There's a couple different places that you can link to these cases. One is on the Info for Students page on our website, and then there's also a link in the assignment tracker. So, I think part of the reason we use FM cases is that we have, between the regular clerkship and the longitudinal integrated clerkships that you guys are at, we have, something like 50 sites. And so we want to make sure that there are some resources that are available to everybody. And this is a great opportunity for that. I think it also is good because it helps you do some problem solving and works through the flow of a clinical encounter. So there are PDFs at the end of each case. You can work through the case, or you can just scroll through the case and get to the PDF, or click through the case and get to the PDF. There is redundancy in the cases, and it's built in because those are the things that are redundant are things that are common and should be mastered. We have a content list that's I'll just do this. This is our FM cases content list, and it's searchable if you hit Control F or Open Apple F. And basically, this is something that you can do. So if you know that you're going to see somebody with an ankle sprain tomorrow, you can go and do an ankle sprain case and just sort of get some learning to prepare. So that's kind of a nice resource that a lot of our students like. And then the corresponding cases are also on the assignment tracker. We test the links, well, we don't test, MedU, who does the cases, test the links annually. If they're not working, email MedU, and they will fix the links. So here's a couple tips for using FMCase as well. Using them to either do your studying at the end of the day to kind of learn about some of the stuff that you're seeing, or if you sort of preview the schedule for the next day that you're going to be with your faculty members, you can kind of do some cases based on the complaints that are going to be coming in on that day. The cases take about 45 minutes each, and so we recommend trying to do at least one case per day. Yeah, the links are supplemental. Oh my goodness. Does anybody have any questions about FM cases before I keep going? All right, I'm gonna keep going. So required activities, you guys have probably gotten oriented to the site already, or maybe you're in the process of doing that. You're doing the orientation webinar. I think that this travel day thing is something that we do for our family medicine clerkship students. I don't know, actually it looks like Danielle is on now. Hi Danielle, do you know if students get a travel day at the end of, right?
No, so the students only get travel days if they have to take an exam in a different location.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Jamie will be sending you the dates for things like the practice test. So what we do is we ask you guys to do, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in a couple minutes, we ask you guys to do about 4 FM cases and then do a practice test. And then there is an opportunity to call in and talk to either me or Misbah Keen about if you have questions about the sort of clinical reasoning that goes into how to answer these questions for the exam. The mid-clerkship review, again, based on what program you're in and how many weeks you're going to be there, you should be doing a mid-clerkship review, and the timing of that will be sent to you by your program. And then you will all take your final exam. I'm not exactly sure what the day is of your final exam, but again, that'll be sent to you by your program, and you should do your end of clerkship review. I think you guys will probably be doing your final exam for family medicine a little bit before your whole right experience is over. So your end of clerkship review should be towards the end of your right experience. And we ask that you do the site and faculty evaluations. And just another reminder that we'd hope that you're required to do the patient-centered observation form 4 to 6 times during the rotation. So the clinical reasoning practice test, we want you to do these 5 FM cases in advance of taking the practice test. And then the practice test is 14 questions. Each question has an explanation at the end of it to kind of talk about what the reasoning was that an expert would use to take it, and then also some sort of test taking skills that might go along with it in terms of some of that stuff that you've gotten pretty well versed in taking step 1, but just remembering that you will have to take step 2 at the end of your required clinical year. So to sort of keep those skills going over the course of this year. And again, so there's that voluntary conference call with one of the 2 of us. Why do we do this? I think that, for better or for worse, the board scores are becoming more of a part of residency programs and a screening, even as part of a screening exam. So we really want you to to both get the kind of clinical learning and also just sort of keep those test taking skills fresh. The final exam is an online closed book exam. There's 100 questions. It's based exclusively on the FM cases. Again, you'll find out the date of your final exam from your program. And there's some sort of administrative things that go along with it. You need to be in a place that you can be more or less proctored, and we work with your sites to figure that out. So the evaluation process for family medicine clerkship, I don't know, it's a little bit different from site to site in terms of the number of preceptors that you have, but the site director should be collecting feedback from all of your preceptors about your performance. And then should take that preliminary feedback into your grade, and considering the depth and length of time that you worked with each faculty member, and also when in the course of the clerkship. So, if you worked with somebody once at the very beginning, it's different than somebody who you worked with over the course of the entire experience, and that those things should be weighted differently. The final grades, though, are assigned by our office, based on both your site director's scores and comments, and also your final exam performance. So your evaluations are based on 11 scoring categories and the final exam. The 11 scoring categories are broken down, and these are the grade anchors. I think it's a great idea to kind of look at these and get a sense of what you're shooting for. A lot of times kind of looking at this at the mid-clerkship review and sort of thinking about where you think you might be and what you can do to improve is a great idea. This thing is like getting away from me. So, and then in terms of the actual grade that you get. So the School of Medicine has asked all clerkships to break your grades into 3 sections. One is your clinical grade, one is your exam grade, and then the last is your final grade. So, it's kind of nice because if you do great clinically and the test isn't as much of your friend, that may or may not be reflected in the final grade, but certainly you'll at least have something that says that you did great clinically. And basically our final grade functions as an adjustment to the GPA of your clinical grade. One concern that students have brought up is that the GPA for honors, the bar for getting honors, is really high in family medicine. I think there's a couple things I would like to say about that. One is that despite that high bar, about 40% of the class has been able to get there. So I think that it's certainly an achievable goal. I think the other thing is that just to kind of, again, the way that our grading is done, for other clerkships, the grading is done in a much more centralized fashion where the office in Seattle sort of number crunches everything. And I think there's a little bit more of, it's done more centrally, whereas we really do a lot of faculty development with our faculty to try and help them do a great job of an appropriate job of grading you. But it is done in a much more decentralized way. And so the cutoff for honors is an achievable goal, and I encourage all of you to go for it. So again, the way that the final exam is factored in is that it can just be a little tiny adjustment to your grade. It is possible to fail the exam. If you fail them, you're required to remediate the test. There's a electronic health orientation checklist that you guys can take a look at. Probably most of you will have some orientation to the electronic health record at your site. This is something that no matter what EHR you are working with, it's kind of useful because there are certain things that you need to be able to do no matter what. Things like where is the history and where is the med list, and and how do I write a note and those kinds of things. And that checklist is available to you, particularly if the orientation to the EHR is maybe less in depth than you want. So I think that's everything. What questions do you guys have?
I kind of have a question at large, just chatting with some of my other trust or right classmates, and that's it seems like the timeline doesn't really apply to us. And so we were kind of wondering if you maybe have any advice on how we should begin to prepare and study for a test that we're not going to take for like another 4 or 5 months.
I think that that's a great question. I think that in general with clinical stuff, trying to prepare and study using patients as the springboard is probably a really good thing to do. So, so taking advantage of that content list that we've put together, and and either at the end of the day when you see somebody, and have some questions, or just want to learn more, using it to do reading about, or to sort of learn more, or again, kind of using it to prepare for clinic and saying, well, it looks like I'm going to see somebody that's got menopausal symptoms, and so I'll do the case on menopause, or I'm going to be seeing a well child check, so I'll do the case on well child care. I think that that's something that is probably helpful, and then as you go through, kind of hanging onto those PDFs and using them for review later. But I think that this is information that is cumulative, and I think the thing that's really cool about the way that you guys are experiencing all of this is that you're going to get a ton of hands-on patient care, and hopefully that will make it so that all of this information is more is applied and will stick. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any other questions that you guys have? Danielle, we have Wright and Olympia LIC students on. I don't know if you have any, just to sort of know that there's a mix of students, but do you have anything that you want to add?
No. I think in terms of the right students discussing like the difference in calendaring, it looks like the calendar on the right website is now up to date. So refer back to that in terms of when your exam and when these conference calls are scheduled for. And then as always, you can reach out to Bernadette or Deb if you have any further questions.
Oh, actually, that's the one other thing. I think something else that's different between the trackers is you guys are expected to log continuity patients based on months rather than weeks. I think that that's actually on the tracker for you.
That is on the tracker. It's a good point, Jean.
Yeah. Any other questions? Where is the Right Tracker website? That is a good question. I think that will be sent to you. So the question is, where is the Right Tracker website? And I think that will be sent to you the link should be sent to you in an email.
Yeah, the only link that I currently have is the administrative one. So I will reach out and I can send that to all the right students at the end of this call.
Yeah, and I'll for the LIC students, I will figure it out for you guys too. It's probably similar. All right, well, I'll hang out for another minute if any of you guys have any other questions, but otherwise, have fun, learn a lot, and yeah, it's like the first thing. It's such an exciting day for you guys. All right, have fun.